Welcome back to a correspondence on the war on consciousness. What if the four-letter word starting with F wasn't the word we know? What if the word that we need to use soap to wash out of our representative's mouth is not that word, but the four-letter word is funding? What if the biggest threat facing the United States of America is not chicks with dicks with communist tattoos and petrol bombs? Is not crazy bastards running around with towels around their head? It's not the crazy white nationalists with burning crosses and blah blah blah, but it is the scientists, it is our professors, it is our PhDs, it is the military, in the military industrial complex, in which the way this world goes around is through that that four-letter word put into action. Funding. Funding. Funding is effing you and your family.
Keep money on their balance sheet secretly. So the Fed bought shares and made their relationship with the BIS much closer in 1994. In 1995, a budget deal basically crashed and burned in October, and it was then that one of the largest pension funds, or the president of the largest pension fund in the country, said to me, they, whoever they is, have given up on the country and moving all the money out starting in the fall. And it was that fall, October 1997, when money started to go missing from HUD as well as the Department of Defense. As of today, there's $20 trillion between 1998 and 2015 missing from DOD, and $1 trillion missing from HUD. The other thing that started to happen when that money started to go missing, Polly, was what I call the Great Poisoning. So literally, it was the next month after the budget deal crashed that OxyContin was approved, and the HUD predatory lending started, and the pill mills started, and really the targeting of the low-income neighborhoods started, including the roundups coming from the private prison movement. And so undocumentable adjustments then skyrocket. Coming into 9/11, we had
funding. Let's put it into perspective. One of the reasons why, I'm going to follow up and speak a little bit more about surveillance capitalism. A major part why we're in the surveillance state, there are many evil people in the world, right? And I'll rely a little bit on, Catherine Austin Fitz said, she was in a group of people, and she was speaking with them, and she asked them, she said, if we could stop the problems we have tomorrow, right, by cutting off all the she said basically this was it. She said our society, the economy, is not running on what we understand the society, all these careers and jobs that everybody's participating in, but the actual source of the major primary source of our economy is through war, military, and drug dealing. And she said, if we wanted to resolve these problems, we'd have to stop that. But then we'd lose a lot of money in our economy, and we'd have to make huge adjustments. If we could do that, how many in this room would want to do it? And she said one person raised their hand. I'm not going to blame them. But what we need to understand is we're in the type of like addictive cycle where the con men are running the game. And I'm not just saying the military-industrial complex. Our whole secondary education system. Well, not only con men. If you know capping, was it cloak and gown? Thank you, Richard Grove. The intelligence agencies, the Rockefellers, especially in the medical field, got into secondary education long ago to control pharmaceuticals, right? The whole health industry, to control industry, right? And what has happened is, and this has to do with like the PhD lifestyle. It's almost like this PhD Brahmin class we created in the United States, right? A type of priest class. You know, all these specialists coming out of all the universities around the world, right? They need to go work in a lab, right? Every university needs funding, right? For all these scientists and doctors to do their studies, someone has to fund it. Now, if you understand the relationship between research and development in the government, public-private partnership, and understand that the entire internet economy, the entire digital economy is derived from that. And it was a type of con, a type of robbery of we the people. The taxpayer paid all the research and development, right, for most of the technology we have today. And then it was given, you know, they would tell public relations story. And now this, you could say this is conjecture, but even to put that aside, the hand-picked private industries were given the knowledge, right, from the research and development in the universities, getting money from the government, or in the military, getting money from the government, right? And every single player in the discoveries that are found in research and development were getting paid salaries and pensions, very well paid, coming from funding taken from the government, which is taken from the American taxpayer. And now what, if any of that development, what profits, what is it adding to the society? One of the problems is the reason we're in this surveillance capitalist predatory society is because all of the research and development has been related to the military and in these areas, right? And then one of the goals, one of the things that has happened is the relationship between the City of London and Wall Street, right? Research and development. Again, thank you, Catherine Austin Fitz. I know I'm putting a lot of stuff out there, but we need to understand that funding, I'm going to cut it, I know I'm jumping around, I'm going to cut in a small clip from Dr. James Giordano's lecture, The West Point, The Battlefield of the Future.
Earlier in the day at lunch, Major and I had a conversation about the viability of different types of research. Science for science's sake. Science just to know because that's where your interests lie. Oh, look, I've been an academic for well over 4 decades, and I can tell you that that kind of research is wonderful. But when that research is generated for a purpose and when it's funded and when that purpose deals with those things that are near and dear to the health, survivability, flourishing and protection of kith and kin, then that research is operational research that has an end goal of use. This is what
seems like it's unrelated, but it's exactly related. The Brain, The Battlefield of the Future, where he's talking about neuroweapons. It's all research and development, right? How did we get to a point where they're talking about hacking people's brains, right? Because they've spent decades giving PhDs and other ABC letter, Brahmins, priest class, giving them fucking salaries and pensions to go fiddle around in labs all day. And what do they come out? The weaponization of neuroscience. And that's come from Dr. Robert Duncan from the MIT presentation. I'll cut in his quote from Jose Delgado, right? Dr. James Giordano tells the cadets at West Point, right? The war college, the military college. He tells the cadets at West Point, you will encounter the weaponization of neuroscience in your personal lives and in your careers. They are valuable, viable, and in play now. He tells them, know these two acronyms, WMD squared and AAA, weapons of mass destruction and disruption, talking about the brain, and AAA, access, assess, and affect, the brain. Now, Giordano's at West Point, right, as a privateer. He's there being paid to give a lecture. Giordano was hired to write the lexicon regarding Havana syndrome for the people who were being targeted in the embassies. A lot of money. This is industry. Well, I'll cut it in so you see it yourself. But he tells the cadets that this is for kith and kin.
When that research is generated for a purpose and when it's funded and when that purpose deals with those things that are near and dear to the health, survivability, flourishing and protection of kith and kin, then that research is operational research that has an end goal of use.
Funding, right? So the whole game is to get in close enough to the halls of power in which you can lobby the government to fund whatever you're doing. $10 billion. Now it's in the billions, right? And that's it, you're set. But what is happening is that all of the research and development has been corralled by the military because they have the most influence in the government. And they're taking care of their people. And I'm not even knocking those people. It's simply people in an economic system that have to pay to put their own lights on and pay their own mortgages and have their own rugrats running around and need to take care of kith and kin. And all they know is the military. And all they know is this research and development. And you have kids their kids go into college. You know, I had a friend told me once, said that you'll never see a family practitioner doctor again. And I said, why? He said, James, because all these kids are going to get PhDs in specializing in specialized medicine. And I later found out that it was more about, it was also had a lot to do with the shifting to digital and insurance. But the money wasn't there anymore. And none of the young kids going into to get PhDs would be able to afford it anymore. Or they're not going in that way because that isn't where the money was. So, funding is think about, and people talk about the space, the moon landing. If you think about what the amount of money, you know, there was a few times where there was money invested in these funding, in these projects, where the crafts blew up. All that money went up in flames. That's taxpayer dollars. But if we look at it from a thing where people need to find ways to get money, to get funding, you know, it's not easy in the world. You have to go out there and find a way to make a way in the world. If you find a way to start siphoning money out of the taxpayer through funding in all these programs, that may be the name of the game. But what happens is you get so good, like people in the military, people who kind of find their own avenues in the academia, to find ways in the public-private partnerships to siphon money from the taxpayer, they start creating these things that they're talking about. So now we have a surveillance, and so you always need, when you could create a fear that something tomorrow, the boogeyman's under the bed, you could always find more reasons for funding. And here we are in a time when surveillance capitalism have teenagers on phone stalking American citizens because someone puts them on a list. And this may seem like it's jumping around a bit, but I'll put a link to a surveillance capitalism, some of the I'm forgetting her name at the moment. The author, and the other links. But for us to understand where we are, understand the economic system that's leveraging us. It's not only is it leveraging us, it's the economic system, the people who are benefiting from the war on consciousness, right? So these are the kids, the young people and the PhDs. They don't know what they're going into. This is the war on consciousness. It's a con job. Take care.